Hello friends, we have discussed the Finance Commission in the previous video. We are going to discuss the 14th Finance Commission. Till today, 15 finance commissions are actually formulated. We are going to discuss the 14th Finance Commission. In the next video, we are going to discuss the 15th Finance Commission. So the 14th Finance Commission was actually constituted in the year 2015, okay, under the chairmanship of the 14th Finance Commission was actually constituted by the President of India under the chairmanship of the Y.V. Reddy. Okay, and the 14th Finance Commission, the Finance Commission actually suggests the measures to transfer the resources between the center and states. Okay, and the transfer of the resources of two types. One is the horizontal transfer and second one is the vertical transfer. If the funds are actually divided between the union and states, so this is called vertical transfer. And if the resources are to be distributed among the states, so that is what called horizontal transfer. Vertical transfer will decide how much resources must be parted between the union and states. That is what about the vertical transfer. And the horizontal transfer explains how the resources must be distributed among the states. And the criteria, if we see the criteria followed by the 14th Finance Commission to distribute the resources among the states, this is about the horizontal transfer. So this is the actual parameter and actual criteria. So it has taken into consideration of the population of 1971, and it has given the weight of 25% in the 13th Finance Commission. And whereas by the 14th Finance Commission, the weightage was actually 17.5%. And the 13th Finance Commission did not give any weightage for the 2011 population, whereas the 14th Finance Commission has given the weightage of 10%. Similarly, income distance, it is 47.5% for the 13th Finance Commission and 50% for the 14th Finance Commission. Fiscal discipline. So there are these are the different parameters on the basis of which the funds were actually recommended to be transferred from union to the states. You understand? It means if the Finance Commission follows the criteria, the states which are having more population would get the more funds. For example, take the example of Uttar Pradesh. It is a major benefactor of the Finance Commission grants because the population it is taking the share of 27.5. So this is the major weightage, okay, one of the major weightages on the basis of which actually the funds to be transferred. It means most populous states will get more funds. And if the state is having the income distance, for example, it is poor state, the weightage would be given 50%. Again, Uttar Pradesh is a poor state. And fiscal discipline, actually the 13th Finance Commission has given weightage for the fiscal discipline. It means what is fiscal discipline? If the state is resorting to more borrowings, which is explained in terms of fiscal deficit, okay, it is nothing but it reflects the borrowing requirement of particular state. If it is state is resorting to frequent borrowings, so that is the state is not having the fiscal discipline. Okay, so it means if the state is following more fiscal discipline, okay, then the weightage will be given. It means here the poor states are going to be suffered. So that's why in the 14th Finance Commission, it is actually zeroed. So it means the fiscal discipline is no more the matter in front of the Finance Commission to recommend the grants to the particular state. And the area, for example, if the state is more expansive, naturally the administrative expenses are very much high. So that's why if the state is more expansive, more larger in the geography, so certainly the weightage actually increased from 13th Finance Commission to the 14th Finance Commission to the tune of 5 percentage points. And forest cover, if the state is actually having greater forest cover, that state is actually given weightage of 7.5% weight. Because you understand, if the state is having extensive forest cover, definitely there will be many administrative difficulties. Okay, and the state may resort to deforestation. You understand, it is environmentally it is dangerous thing, okay, to deforestate. So that's why if the state is having more forest, it must be incentivized rather than punished. So that's why the Finance Commission will also incentivize those states which are having more forest cover. And some, in this way, that 14th Finance Commission has departed from 13th Finance Commission in two issues majorly. For example, in the case of 2011 population, it has given weightage, and with respect to forest cover, it has given weightage, and with respect to third point, with respect to area, it has given more weightage. Coming to the major recommendations, actually it has recommended that tax resources, the tax devolution must be the primary criteria of devolution from the center to the states. It means the state government can get the grants from central government in the name of schemes. But if the money are transferred from the center to the states in the name of scheme like MG Narega, definitely the states will not be having enough power to utilize the money in the other areas. So that is the reason why the 14th Finance Commission has recommended that the tax devolution must be the primary route for the transfer of resources from the central government to the states. And next important thing is the divisible pool got increased from 32%, which was recommended by the 13th Finance Commission, to the 42%, which is recommended by the 14th Finance Commission. It means, for example, if the central government is getting 100 rupees as a tax revenue, so 42 rupees must be transferred among the states. So that is the 42%. And the commission came up with new formula to divide the 42%. So this is an important deviation from the 13th Finance Commission. And the commission also allocated grants and also identified many sources of income for the local bodies. So the local bodies, how the local bodies should secure the funds, because the local bodies suffer a lot of financial difficulties because they don't have enough financial resources to cope up with the challenges they face. So that is the reason why the 14th Finance Commission has come up with various recommendations how to enhance the resources of the local government. And the 14th Finance Commission also specified the performance, because the central government can transfer as much resources as it is wanted by the state government, but the state governments must put the funds into the right use, otherwise the funds will go wasted. So that's why the central government also the Finance Commission also specified the requirement of the performance. So that's why the 50% of the resources will be transferred first. Later, after the performance of the state government in that particular aspect, another installment of 50% will be transferred. So this is the important criteria of 14th Finance Commission for the sake of performance of the states in the particular field. And in case of Gram Panchayats, 90% of the grant will be the basic grant and 10% will be the performance grant. It means the grant will be divided into two types, performance grant and basic grant. The basic grant with respect to the state functions, it will be 50:50. Whereas with respect to the local bodies, it will be 90:10. With respect to urban local bodies, it is 80:20. So in this way, the Finance Commission tried to enhance the performance of the subunits in the Indian state. And with respect to the Gram Panchayats, for example, whenever the central government routes the money to the local bodies via state government, sometimes what happens, the state government may misuse the funds. So that is the reason why the central government the Finance Commission has specified that the grants for panchayats should go only to them without any share for the other levels of the government and state government. It means, for example, we have three tiered panchayat raj structure. One is the Jilla Parishad, second one is the panchayat at the block level and panchayat at the village level. So the 14th Finance Commission has recommended that the funds from the union should directly transfer to the village level. It means these two requirements of the Jilla Parishad and block level panchayat must be taken care by the state government itself. It means the state government should not misuse the funds which are actually allocated to the village panchayats, that is Gram Panchayats. And important thing is the major change which has happened in the recent year is goods and service tax. The goods and service tax actually subsumed all the indirect taxes, which are imposed by the center and states. So that's why it has reduced the cascading of the taxes. It tried to improve the tax efficiency, and it also tried to address the matter of tax evasion. But you understand, the states lost majority of resources under the GST regime. So that's why the 14th Finance Commission has recommended that there must be GST compensation fund. For example, if the states are actually losing their fund losing their resources under the new GST regime, the central government has to transfer the compensation under the GST compensation fund. For the first year, 100% shortfall will be actually compensated. In the next year, 75% in the second year and 50% in the third year. In this way, the states will be compensated. And the next important is electricity. With respect to electricity, the commission has recommended that 100% metering must be achieved. It means the finance commission will recommend not only transfer of the resources between the center and states, but also it will also try to address those areas which are recommended by the President of India. If the President of India has recommended that public utilities, how the public utilities must be taxed, how the public utilities must be improved, so in those areas also the Finance Commission can investigate. So likewise, it has recommended the electricity, in the area of electricity, 100% net metering, because the metering, the 100% metering must be enhanced. Otherwise what happened, the state discomes, the power distributing companies are actually in the losses. So the losses must be actually bridged using the 100% metering. It means no one should be avoided. It means everyone should be brought under the metering, so that the losses of the power distribution companies can be reduced. And Electricity Act currently does not have any provision of penalties for the delays in the payment of the subsidies by the state government. It means the state government would grant various subsidies to various levels of populations. For example, it may grant subsidies to the SCs, STs, households. So in those situations, if the state government is not giving subsidies, not transferring the subsidy amount to the power distribution companies, certainly the power distribution companies cannot recover the losses. So that's why the Finance Commission has recommended, if any state does not transfer the subsidies to the states, so those to the subsidies to the power distributing companies, those states must be penalized, okay, by amending the Electricity Act of 2003, because electricity is the concurrent subject which falls under the combined list of union and states, so under which the Electricity Act was actually enacted. So this must be suitably amended to improve, to actually provide the penalties for the states if they delay the payments of the subsidies. And transport, with respect to transport, also the 14th Finance Commission has recommended that the commission recommended rail tariff authority must be formulated. Rail tariff authority, it means if any change in the current tariffs, that is what does it mean, of the meaning of the tariffs? It means the charges. So these must be revised periodically, okay, based on the conditions of the railways. So there must be independent commission to actually look into the matters of the revision of the tariffs. But there is a advisory body, currently there is an advisory body to look after that, but that advisory body cannot show the independence and autonomy with respect to that function. So that's why it has recommended there must be statutory body, there must be a body which is actually formulated by the enactment, suitable enactment. 14th Finance Commission also looked into the area of water supply, because water is very much important area where the government has to work. Actually it has recommended the water regulation authority, because this water regulation authority would actually price the water, because when you are not attaching any price tag to water consumption, certainly the water can be going wasted. There must be for example, if the water is priced, definitely the required funds will be available in the hands of the local bodies as well as the state government to improve the water infrastructure in the particular area. And it recommended all states invest in the volumetric measurement of the use of the irrigation water. Certainly, if you are measuring the irrigation water, when you are metering the irrigation water, certainly the water efficiency will be incentivized. You can also locate the areas where the water is majorly consumed. You can also locate the where the water actually less consumed. So in that area also you can actually plan the water usage. So this is the important recommendation on part of the Finance Commission. And it also recommended that states and local bodies should progressively move towards 100% metering of the water, and to complete the metering by the year of 2017. So this is the important recommendation. And the 14th Finance Commission also recommended certain aspects with respect to public sector undertakings, because the public sector undertakings are nothing but these are the business which are run by the government, okay. And the commission recommended that the finance sector and Public Enterprises Committee to be appointed to examine and recommend the parameters for appropriate future fiscal support to the finance sector, public sector and public sector enterprises. You understand, the public sector enterprises are not in the complete profits. It means there are many, there are hundreds of public sector undertakings, and out of which majority of them are actually running in the losses. You understand, that's why the 14th Finance Commission has recommended that, you should not allow those companies, those undertakings which should go in the losses. So you have to understand and examine which public sector undertaking must be getting the support from the government, and which should be actually the funding must be reduced. So in this area also the 14th Finance Commission has recommended. Thank you friends. With this we have finished the discussion regarding the 14th Finance Commission, its recommendations, and in the next video we would discuss the 15th Finance Commission and its terms of recommendations and the controversies surrounding the 15th Finance Commission. Please share the video, please subscribe the video, and please like the video, and if you have any queries you can place your comments in the comment box. Okay, thank you very much.